Hello Dub Nation, it's always a thrill to connect with you, especially as we're about to reveal the latest news that could shape the fate of our beloved Golden State Warriors. But before we dive into this whirlwind of information, let me make a friendly request. Show us some love by clicking the like button to strengthen our bond, and hey, if you are not subscribed yet, join our channel for a thrilling and emotional journey. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay ahead of the game. Former point guard poised to haunt the Warriors as one of the league's best value signings. Chris Paul may no longer be the perennial all-star he once was, but he remains a highly impactful rotational player. The 39-year-old demonstrated this for the Golden State Warriors last season, with his one-year stint exceeding many expectations on an individual level. As anticipated, it wasn't enough for the Warriors to secure his $30 million contract for the upcoming season, giving Paul the opportunity to enter free agency for the first time. He quickly signed a one-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs. Former Golden State Warriors point guard Chris Paul has been hailed as one of the most valuable free agent signings this offseason. While much attention has been on Klay Thompson's potential impact on the Dallas Mavericks next season, it's arguable that Paul will be even more valuable to his new team compared to his former teammate. In addressing off-season moves, Darnell Mayberry of The Athletic views Paul as the most valuable signing of the free agency period so far. Chris Paul to San Antonio for 1 year, $11 million is the best move possible, wrote Mayberry. Paul isn't the player he once was, but the Spurs have acquired a future Hall of Fame floor general to pair with their Hall of Fame coach and young phenom, Victor Wembanyama. There was little surprise when the Spurs pursued Paul in free agency, having desperately needed a playmaking point guard last season. It might have been a bit surprising that Paul declined offers from rival teams that could have given him a better chance at an elusive championship, but the opportunity to play with a generational talent like Wembanyama was a strong motivator. San Antonio was speculated as a potential destination for the 12-time All-Star even as a trade candidate before the midseason deadline in February. This connection only grew stronger after the Warriors' season ended. While the Warriors may not feel Paul's absence on a day-to-day basis, they could be directly impacted in matchups against the Spurs, who are expected to be much more competitive next season. Paul's pairing with Wembanyama could be a nightmare for opponents at times, especially if it happens against Golden State. Paul aims to reverse the Spurs' recent poor performance against the Warriors, who won 3 of their 4 matchups last season and 7 of the last 8 overall. Warriors' trade for Markkanen would require additional move if they part with Podziemski. With less than 48 hours until he becomes eligible for an extension on August 6, Lauri Markkanen's future remains a hot topic in the NBA, especially as the Golden State Warriors explore a trade for the Utah Jazz forward. The path could be straightforward for the Warriors. They could acquire Markkanen if they are willing to part with Brandon Podziemski, a series of future picks, and the necessary salary to match the 27-year-old's $18 million salary for the upcoming season. The Golden State Warriors need a contingency plan if they decide to trade Brandon Podziemski in a deal for Lauri Markkanen. There has been no indication that Golden State is willing to trade Podziemski. In fact, their commitment appears stronger than ever after owner Joe Lacob labeled the young guard a future All-Star during a Summer League interview. NBA insider Mark Stein reiterated on Sunday that the Warriors are still not willing to include Brandon Podziemski in a trade package for the 7-foot Finn. At the same time, there is no indication that Utah will accept less. Even offering Podziemski might not be enough, as belief grows that Markkanen will renegotiate and extend his deal with the franchise. The debate over whether the Warriors should be willing to part with Podziemski is intriguing. The argument for keeping him isn't solely about the 21-year-old's skill and potential. Much of the discussion revolves around Podziemski being on a rookie contract for the next 3 years, earning less than $13 million in total. In an era of punitive luxury tax aprons, this is more valuable than ever. However, an equally important factor is the state of Golden State's roster. Podziemski is set to be the backup point guard while also playing alongside Stephen Curry in the backcourt. This duo is the only set of point guards on the Warriors' main roster, and even then, Podziemski can be considered more of a combo guard with no real experience running an NBA offense. If Golden State proves willing to part with Podziemski, they will need another transaction seemingly in the works. Unless they can acquire Colin Sexton in any deal with the Jazz, which seems unlikely as it would have to include Andrew Wiggins for salary matching purposes. Markelle Fultz and Dennis Smith Jr. are the most notable remaining free agent point guards, but the options are sparse beyond that. From a trade perspective, Dennis Schroeder and Malcolm Brogdon are proven veterans who could be relatively easy to obtain, but things would get complicated salary-wise, not to mention the assets required to acquire them. It's not just about who takes the backup point guard minutes but who fills the starting role when Stephen Curry inevitably misses or rests 10 to 20 games over the season. This highlights that there are layers to this Markkanen deal far beyond just the trade itself. Golden State Warriors eye former Grizzlies player, potential hidden gem. The 26-year-old has been out of action for over 2 years. Sharpening the offense has been a clear necessity for the Golden State Warriors this offseason, a key factor driving their pursuit of Utah Jazz forward Lauri Markkanen. However, the Warriors might have found a more affordable solution to fill this gap by showing interest in the often overlooked former Memphis Grizzlies player, Killian Tillie. Golden State Warriors consider comeback opportunity for Killian Tillie, who hasn't played in the NBA since March 2022. Tillie appeared in 54 games over 2 seasons with the Grizzlies, averaging 3.2 points in 11.9 minutes per game. But after a back injury cut short his 2021-22 season, Tillie was waived by Memphis before the following season and has been absent from the NBA ever since. Having regained full health, the 26-year-old is now targeting a return to the NBA, recently showcasing his skills with the Boston Celtics during the just-concluded Summer League. Tillie averaged 8.4 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 1 block in 17.2 minutes per game, shooting an impressive 41.2% from beyond the arc on 3.4 attempts per game. In a recent interview with Theo Lawson of the Spokesman Review, it was revealed that the 6'9" forward had multiple suitors, with strong interest particularly from the Golden State Warriors and the Philadelphia 76ers. This interest likely emerged before the Summer League, given that Golden State has already filled its roster with 14 fully contracted players and 3 on two-way contracts. This leaves little room in terms of financial capacity and roster spots, although Tillie could re-emerge as an option should circumstances change. The Frenchman demonstrated his efficiency as a three-point shooter for his size during 4 years at Gonzaga, hitting 44.4% of his 2.2 attempts from beyond the arc. While this didn't quite translate during his stint with the Grizzlies, where he shot 31.1% on the same volume of attempts, his potential remains evident. Markkanen would be the ideal solution to the Warriors' need for frontcourt shooting, but they've also addressed this to some extent by drafting Dutch big man Quinten Post with the 52nd overall pick. The 7-footer shot 42.6% and 43.1% in his last 2 seasons at Boston College. With the Warriors' eye for talent and strategic planning, integrating a player like Tillie could prove to be a shrewd move, adding depth and shooting prowess to their lineup.